Who the devil are you? Oof. We're gonna have to redo that one. Who the devil are you? Who the devil are you? Who the devil are you? No, don't come here to the Sprawl. Not yet. Just wait. If you come here, you'll have no way to get back. I can't tell you how to return to your world, traveler. And there's no reason for you to come here to mine. But one thing we can do is play this video game together. And frankly, there's no place I would rather be at this moment. This is a video game called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. I need to turn the volume down. This game enjoyed a complicated reception. I was listening to the Giant Bomb Game of the Year podcast deliberations last time around for the year 2018, and Alex Navarro described it as sort of a bitter disappointment. And I disagreed. I think there's a lot to be said for the context of a game like this. Well, perhaps, Traveler, I should tell you first what this thing is all about. We're like an immortal hitchhiker, and we wander around the country, all 50 states in the United States of America. It's that country. We're wandering around America. And generally our goal is to trade stories in an effort to win our soul back from like a wolf god, sort of like the devil, but more of a pagan type thing. I think if you look at this project as a work of entertainment or as an entrant into the typical arena for video games, like as a product on the front page of Steam, it's easy to view it as unsuccessful. But what if you don't look at it that way? What if you look at this thing as a work of history, or at least a work about history? I mean, I'm the sort of person who'll read a whole book about the American Civil War, and that's not everybody in the world. Maybe this game is better suited for a person like me, and I'll show you why. Because dotting this beautifully rendered country, I think, beautifully rendered, are these little story nodes. Little story nodes.
This bungalow is being ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard.
This narrator, huh?
Ammunition heaped under the mailbox. And a crowd of clean-cut men.
Clean-cut men.
Driveway.
It sounds a lot like Dan Carlin, actually. And if, like me, you're sort of a history fan, you might know what that's like.
The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch
Right?
railing share the
This is
same
Dan Carlin.
grin. One shouts at you. Lend a couple innocent gals a cigarette?
The same bored grin. War Genghis Khan, the Mongol prince. You know, I'm not gonna... You can go watch Stephen Colbert do it. I think... Well, why not? Why shouldn't we lend these people a cigarette? We're like a mythological figure in America's past. Of course we're going to lend them a cigarette.
To hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. You know these girls? They demand. Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless. If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash. Sneers one. On the porch
Well, some women got arrested for bootlegging. It's not to say that these are retellings of real events that really happened. I like that there are these little hamlets in here that, you know, there isn't a story here right now. Maybe it's like a proc gen thing, I don't know. But people live here. And what a lovely representation of the life they may have had. So isolated. I mean, American history is fucking weird. That's what I like about it. That's why I have a tendency to pursue it. Some of the issues I have with this game, although overall I find it to be underrated, are that, like, you go to places like North Dakota and you don't, I didn't at least encounter any stories about, like, the Red Clouds War or any of that bury my heart at Wounded Knee era history. I believe the game is trying to tell me that I need some Z's. I should probably go to like a place that will let me sleep. That could be this place, you never know.
Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle. The shape gives a start. Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here. Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore. You tell the boy you'll keep his secret. You don't see his father anyway.
Oh, it's in German right now. That's interesting. Can I, oh. Well, sometimes the UI is in German, and that's something that I appreciate about this game. Okay. Portland will have a place to sleep. The meter management stuff doesn't much come into play, but it does add a bit of style to the experience, I would say. But the thing I'm really here for is to just check out this anthology of micro-narratives dotting the geography and the sort of temporary, you know, that's a period of a century or so, I think, where this game tends to set most of these little vignettes.
They don't come every year, you know.
Ah.
The old man is sitting at the
I like this
edge of a
one.
rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the water. He watches a pair of seagulls preen and groom each other on a rock just off the shore. They seem to wait for something together, fidgeting and rubbing against one another. And when they fly off, they fly together. He watches
Birds.
them fly away until their bodies are dots vanishing into the low sun. Always the same pair. Wonder what keeps him coming back to this town.
Birds are amazing creatures, and for the majority of American history, the government didn't respect that. Even today, it's kinda iffy, isn't it?
The woman walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis. A confident stride and inimitable mannerisms.
I wonder if I can turn these subtitles off and perhaps I can just deliver for you, you traveler, because I'm inside of a mist book right now. Maybe I can take a stab at my Dan Carlin voice. Would you enjoy that? Would anyone? I would.
You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house. Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coupe? That's the spirit. You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner. Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work.
We should see what's
As
up.
far as I know.
I mean,
Just around.
it might be a little rude to approach her though, but it feels wrong to be wandering around gossiping. Let's like try to be a little confident and a little sympathetic.
You ask the woman if you may join her at a public bench. You may. Lovely outside, isn't it? Her eyes are a beautiful shaded brown. Beneath the yellow ribbon, a thick...
Sorry about that. I received a text.
around her throat. Weather like this, it reminds me of Paris.
Paris. It's French. How did she get there? I mean, that's the sort of thing that might have happened. Probably happened, almost certainly happened. And it's an interesting thing to think about. You know, video games try to tell us these neat little stories. The two brothers who gotta like do a weird quest, but they love each other and it's for their mom, and the mom's like being fridged. That's a better story than these vignettes. It's more, you know, elaborately wrought. But there's also this contextual difference between these stories and those ones. These ones are not necessarily trying to enrapture you after the fashion of a Disney film. These are stories that intersect with history, and history is just this intrinsically interesting thing. These things are made more interesting because of their proximity to what may really have occurred, and all of that rich context that you import for free when you make this work that is so snug up against a field like history. Like I was just talking about Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. That's a history book. And the stories you read in there have a special quality that, you know, a video game like Brothers cannot replicate.
At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level.
Yeah,
Looks
we're
like
gonna
we got
knock
a
on the
visitor.
lighthouse door.
Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough. Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge...
This guy's really chewing these lines.
Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in. Despite the rough exterior, this room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trodden...
We're gonna have tea with these lovely two men in this rain-washed lighthouse. What a nice thing.
Great hazel-colored beard. A few years. The tall one sits on the sofa, wrapping his arm. You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea.
How nice.
Cakes?
Little cakes.
Cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave.
What a nice story. The two lighthouse keepers. Right, you can hitchhike in this game. I mean, one interesting thing about this game is that this models like pre-automobile hell America. At least for you, you can see here there are automobiles around. But for you, it's like you're on these mass transit routes. You're riding trains. Sometimes you're trying to sneak onto trains. This is the city of Boston, which means we're in Massachusetts. There's the Massachusetts state line, and New Hampshire's over there. This is like a good place to try to get money. And maybe we could sleep, but only if we can buy accommodations because we live in a capitalist country. Do we want to panhandle or look for work? This time let's panhandle. Let's interact with a small child across the street. Oh, we've been spotted. Isn't that nice? Got some money from this small child. He was moved by perhaps the Spirit of the Lord. That would have been the right religion for this time and place. Christianity, right? Oh, the cola could get us, but we actually, I don't think we can afford any of these. Oh, okay, $50 for that one. And now our Z's are full. In addition to doing earn money, you can always explore in a city. The cities are among my favorite bits of this game, really.
Crooked streets splay out in a maze of narrow passages, no two alike. Soon, you find yourself in twilight. Utterly
I did the taxi cab one last time. I'm gonna do the other one this time.
unable to afford rescue, you keep walking. The asphalt turns to crooked cobblestones that threaten to wrench your ankle out of place.
Whoa.
Was this always a moonless? It's hard finding your way through in pitch.
What a great way to narrate a cobblestone sidewalk.
Feeling the scale of the streets by the echoing of your footsteps. Fingers tracing the rough surface of the buildings. And then
A rumble of noise.
distance.
A rumble of noise in the distance.
You quiet yourself, suddenly fearful. The clear
Ooh,
sky tells
cannon
it's not
fire.
thunder, but cannon fire. The city comes alive when you come to.
There's a lot of this like magical realism stuff in here. It's a little bit like Neil Gaiman, something like that.
The comically shrill honk of a Model A running up the road startles you, and you crawl toward the sidewalk. Above, the sky.
You had like a supernatural experience. I think as like an immortal ghost character, it's literally, I mean, it's just like Neil Gaiman, right? You're like sort of a supernatural character now, so you get these flashbacks to some previous time. A way to get that war stuff into this narrative a bit more. And I think that stuff works great. That's a cool scene.
A dusty truck and a man on horseback.
It's interesting to think that this same place was involved in a battle at one time.
The driver and the rider, two wiry old men with identical haircuts, start shrieking at one another. The man with the truck leaps into the street.
Brother!
He shouts. The one on the horse tumbles out of his saddle. "Brother!" he screams. They embrace on the road. 30 years.
30 years.
The rider.
32 years they've been separated, these two brothers.
Cry and hug one another in the middle of
Displays of emotionality amongst men at this time period would have been uncommon.
"Take a photo of us," the driver begs you. Starts hauling a tripod out of the bed of his truck.
Yeah, let's get this photo.
The long-lost brothers pose in front of traffic. Cry snot pouring out of their noses.
Angry
passerby wave you out of the road.
Motorists, you can't trust them.
Into your hand. When the traffic
I'm
disperses,
just kidding.
you
You can
realize
trust
they
some of them.
overpaid you quite a shocking amount.
That's great, you know, we could use that money somewhere down the road. Another feature this game has are these NPCs. Ah, it's Claris's character.
You're welcome to enjoy this fire with me.
One thing this game does really well is when it does use guest authors, and Claris here, guest author for this game, there were a large number of them. You get their name up front, and it's well positioned, it's well framed, right? It's letting you know that the thing that's happening next is going to be a departure in some way from the tone and themes and content that you've previously been experiencing. And probably it's going to be themed after the guest writer who's doing it. And it's interesting to speculate often about how the story before us might connect with the person who wrote it. People love doing that, don't they?
This here is my spot, and I ain't inclined to share it with any bad characters. You can call me Quinn. These here are my venturing companions. Kaz is the big un, and the one with the spots is Flip.
I like the person who voices Quinn.
I usually beat my way on the rails, but the road news said this town was fat, and the weather was fine. So I'm taking in the sights and seeing what I can drum up. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those.
So I think one of the weaknesses of this game involves the trading of stories. Just because it's not so interesting for me to... The goal is to fill up this eye, right? They want to hear a thrilling story. Out of all the ones that we found so far, we want to choose one that has been tagged with the thrilling attribute. But there's like a lack of clarity about which stories are going to register as thrilling. Sometimes you disagree with the game. For example, these two brothers reconnecting. Is that like an exciting story? I think probably not. Like usually what you want to do... I accidentally hit the OK button.
Get too much out of tales that are so
See,
cheerful.
that's actually a
Sad
cheerful
for me.
story.
There
I
ain't
think
no
this is
way
the
I'm
sort of
gonna
thing
stop.
that people
Tell
will
me
latch
when it was
on to when
exciting.
they're discussing this game about, you know, reasons they didn't enjoy it, I suppose. A light in the sky. That sounds thrilling. Thrilling is kind of a hard one. I'm glad that we encountered it first.
Were you trying to scare
See,
me?
like, oh, that was
You didn't
actually
know.
spooky.
Now why you want to go worry about that?
And then, because I said a death story,
Ain't nobody can avoid changing.
the character makes this comment on death. And that's kind of an odd one as well. And I think probably, like Claris in this case, all the guest writers had to produce one, like for each category of card, each spoke on that wheel that we were looking at.
Can't run from the dying, but the living can be mighty fine if you go about it right.
That's kind of nice. What a nice line. I think they probably had to produce one of these dialogue sequences for each spoke, and then they had to do that like 3 times for each you encounter. Like, we'll encounter Quinn this time, and then if we fill up the meter, another time, and then another time. Or if you don't fill up the meter, you just have to kind of grind it. And the grinding thing is a little unfortunate. I think most of us would agree about that. But the question I have is, like, is that a reason to... discredit's kind of a funny word. Is that a reason to declare that this one is a bad product? Or that it's something you shouldn't mess with? No, absolutely not. These are small concerns, by my estimation. You can eat around these parts. It's a little unfortunate that the parts that do such a good job spotlighting the guest writers are also the parts that I tend to want to eat around, just on account of the like somewhat confusing structure. That's probably like spooky. Lighthouse Keepers is like kind of cutesy. Past and Memories is probably not going to have. Sadness, I mean, no, that's not going to be exciting. Like, I'm not going to have a thrilling story, I don't think. Oh, bootlegging, maybe.
Well, that was something.
Okay.
You spin a good yarn. Authority, bosses and such. I ain't nobody's little Angelina, if that's what you're asking.
And I picked an
Take care of
authority
myself and my
card.
dogs.
So they're telling me what they think about authority. And that's like sort of interesting, but it's also
looking out for me. So if you're
not
offering,
quite the
don't.
style of conversation that I would prefer to be having with Quinn right now. No jocker. I don't know what jocker means.
You want to keep enjoying my spot or not? Think about that.
As they threateningly waved his dagger.
Venturing tales.
Venturesome tales. Again, Quinn really wants that exciting stuff, and I just don't really have it for him, unfortunately. For them, I actually don't know Quinn's gender. I don't think they've given me pronouns either. We could try. We could try the Boston one, but I don't think it's gonna work.
I usually like the scary stuff, but your story needed more punch, I think. Well, I don't know a whole lot about the past, but
didn't work.
They say there's an Injun grave around these parts. Say it's haunted and full up with anger. I used to love hearing stories of cowboys and Injuns fighting it up. Would swap tales with the youngins. But, well, I suppose if someone shot me, I'd be pretty vengeful too.
So there you go. Clarice is getting there with the, there's at least some mention of the previous occupants of Turtle Island here.
Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those.
They want them thrilling, but I got nothing for them. I'm just gonna burn them all out. Uselessly.
Ain't life got enough tearjerker? Sad. Well, so you think just 'cause I'm young, I gotta be sad, crying after my mama every night. I don't need you looking after me, so if you're offering, don't. And I thought I told you to be respectful.
Yeah, Quinn doesn't really want you to be getting up in their affairs.
Asking yourself is if you want to keep enjoying my spot or not. Well, night's over. I think I'll see what's
And then it
happening
lets
up
you know,
there this
oh,
way.
they're going this way.
Didn't
You can
understand
find them
your
again and
stories,
try to
but I'd
open all
gladly
those
listen more
eyes.
if I see you again.
Yeah,
The
they're
trip
letting
life
you
suits me
know.
just
You
fine.
got like
Every
the
day's
not
adventure.
great outcome.
With things being so depressed, folks walk around like it's the end of everything good. But it ain't. Plenty nice things to see if and you know.
What an optimistic attitude. This is the part that I really love about it. I love the look of this. You know, I'm all about those multiple scales of traversal. The notion that there's this world map, and that the world map, it's like a huge U on a tiny map. I fall for that every time. And this is just an excellent one. The color palette is really cool. There's crows. Everybody from Vancouver loves crows. It's like an American Gods crow. Let's talk to them. Oh, it's like a tutorial crow. That's nice. I love tutorial birds. So we're walking from Boston to New York. You can see New York up there. I really like that this game, you know, mostly accurately depicts the vast geography that the United States came to encompass as it expanded and expanded and expanded from sea to shining sea.
Outside
Not so
the
shining
small
anymore, I
thicket of
suppose.
trees, the phrase "tended to" by John Chapman is carved into a fence post. Nearby, a hound lies on its side, perfectly still. Flies buzz around its ears. But a grizzled man pauses at his digging to shoo them off. There's an extra shovel. With it, the two of you make short work of the grave.
It's Johnny
He
Appleseed.
tells you about his beliefs, why he's raising apple orchards in the middle of the country.
It's a sin to
It's
graft.
a sin to graft. He stoops to the ground and lowers the pup into the earth.
The pup.
Tears flow freely.
This game is on board with
I'll
pup
see him
culture.
again in heaven, he tells you. Our souls are bound by love. He wipes his eyes. I don't think I can bear to stay here, though. Maybe I'll set out again.
John Chapman. And then, like, this is a really cool part coming up right here. We're gonna hear a wild story from this farmer. Yeah, right? So the bootlegging story, after we told it to Quinn, reappears. But it has grown in the telling, is the parlance this game likes to use. And now it's like a shootout. Maybe it would be more exciting now, you know. Then I can be like, that happened to me! But nobody ever believes you, which is great. What a nice thing. Let's check out New York City. Gasoline and trash. You feel like there's an engine in your chest, and of course there is. Well, we don't really need money, but let's explore.
The engines belch black smoke as the ferry churns gray water into froth. A broad-shouldered figure leans out over the rail, eyeing the skyscrapers on the horizon.
I believe I listened the last time I played
Man
this.
and a woman
Let's just butt right in there and be like, talk to me.
you are once over as you approach. His newsboy cap is ragged with age.
You look familiar. Did I meet you at
I could
Union Square?
just ruin this person's improv sketch. Nope, not at Union Square. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay. Yes, and.
The
Yeah,
demonstration.
Union
It
Square.
got bloody.
Oh, the demonstration.
He claps a hand to his hat to steady it from the breeze.
He's a
He was
communist.
arrested. Many of us had to flee. I came into New York, and here I continue our efforts.
Oh, excuse me, a socialist. And then because we have money, we can we could go to the store and buy a slice of New York pizza, but we're full, so what's the point? Instead, we're gonna take a train and we're gonna go to Detroit. You can ride the train illegally, but you usually get killed when they catch you. If you pay the money, then you don't get conked on the head. Something between dread and frantic optimism. I like the writing style in this game. I like it a lot. And I like it in the way I like those history books. Let's explore Detroit, shall we?
The rain is coming down so hard. It's a wonder the sidewalk hasn't started to. A squat man bundled up.
We know all about
in a
rain
fur coat
out
and
here in
matching
the
hat
Sprawl.
approaches.
Sort of a boreal
Thick
forest
rain
type biome.
flattens and mats his fur. He squints up at you.
You're in my spot.
He crows.
Oh, he's like a bird guy.
He
Hey.
leans in. You catch a flash
Whoa.
of wrinkled red skin and sharp yellow teeth.
Been here a long time. You best show me respect.
The man gives you a long look, then turns and keeps. A minute later, the ledge
Ooh.
collapses. Falling brickwork catches you hard on the shoulder.
Oh
You
man.
cover up.
Got smucked in the head. Gruesome red creature. So that becomes a story that we can later trade to one of those NPCs. So of course, having taken the train to Detroit, we're now in Michigan. Over there, it's one of those fires. That means that there's an NPC waiting for us.
The man lowers his paper as you come near. His weather-beaten face is drawn. You see
Ooh,
it spreading.
some climate devastation
strangling the
content.
Half my cattle suffocated in the last storm. We cut open the carcasses to salvage the meat. They were filled with mud.
Yeah,
He licks his cracked lips.
let's be
They
sympathetic.
stay dry. His land is dying. The harvest fails again, people will too.
Can't you move away?
The family came here for a fresh start. All we have is our claim. His voice is hoarse. We came here when there was no
He's a
more work
squatter.
back home. Now this. If we leave, it'll just be something else.
What a clusterfuck, you know?
Your skin prickles gently.
So many
The
people
sky is still clear.
stealing and getting stolen from and
Big
dying and
He calls
climate
after you.
Buy
disasters,
in a week. A dock
factory
will be built the next
disasters. I heard in the Sprawl, where I am right now, they destroyed a whole salmon fishery, like the spawning ground, because they were like doing some TNT shit on the mountain nearby and accidentally caused this avalanche. But you know, there's a chance that that story could grow into a more hopeful one depending on how someone mistells it in the future. This little pond. Huh? Just a weird round pond. It's like a peanut. I like that I can walk through it. I feel my feet just getting a little cooler.
The car is a lifeline. Your one hope to escape the encroaching storm. It rattles along a few yards ahead of the storm front. You grab the straps and haul yourself up.
Ah, this one's cool.
That's the woman on the back.
A fellow observer.
A storm chaser is here.
We're not done with our observations.
She threads one arm through the straps and makes another attempt to write, but it comes out illegible.
Let's do it. Let's participate in the documentation of this storm.
Notebook. You scribble furiously while she dictates.
You know, getting some female representation in. This game is like doing, I think, pretty good on the politics in those regards. You get more of an alt games politic, even though the container is sized up a little bit and is more approaching like an indie game. It's something that I still come back to every once in a while. Just to kind of crawl around another little stretch of this map, see some more kind of odd vignettes. It's always interesting for me to think about what the authors chose to include, what they chose not to include. It's interesting. It's interesting to go through the NPC side quests, even if the structure of the game impedes them somewhat. Look at these numbered highway routes. Highway routes are a historical thing. Chicago, of course. But there'll always be more time to play where the water tastes like wine out here in the Sprawl. For now, I've got to go do some suburban things. I'll see you next time.